Coming up, ladies and gentlemen, this week on PWR News, sitting in for Frank Cosentino, who called off at the last minute. It is the man they call Meathead, but tonight it is. We're going to talk about WWE business results, TNA Sacrifice pay-per-view preview, WWE and TNA ratings, and details on the PWR draft coming up starting next week. All that coming up next on the world's most watched professional wrestling news program, The Pro Wrestling Report.
And now, the world's most watched professional wrestling news program, the Pro Wrestling Report.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to PWR News. This is the world's most watched professional wrestling news program. Damian Nelson sitting here alongside the man they call Meathead.
I'm sorry.
Frank Cosentino not able to join us.
We're taping a little late.
Sorry, Meathead coming in to save the day. Frank got called down to Orlando, Florida.
Yeah.
And is not able to join us, so thank you. I guess that sort of explains your appearance.
There are so many things I could say right now about how maybe I'm with your mom.
A lot of mamas out there.
I've a lot of mama drama.
Did you see the movie Baby's Daddy? Baby's Mama?
Baby.
Mama's Baby's Daddy's Uncle? Baby's Kids?
Baby's Kids. Robin Harris.
No, there was a newer one with
Baby Mama.
Baby Mama.
Tina Fey.
There weren't any black people in it, though.
First time in American cinema, sir?
Let's get right to the news, ladies and gentlemen. And our first bit of news is the WWE financials.
Wait, that's not
one.
what the script said. Good evening, I'm Damian Nelson. And I'm Meathead. Let's get right to the top story. Now you go.
WWE business results, ladies and gentlemen, for the first quarter of 2008. Let's talk about the quarter that did include WrestleMania 24. And there are some big news items to be talked about in this quarter. Specifically, it was the WWE's most successful business quarter in the history of the company, led by a few things: increase in live event revenues from live events and pay-per-view revenues, increase in licensing, increase in merchandise, increase in business all across the board. Specifically, revenues total $162.6 million as compared to $107.4 million same time period last year. Now, last year did not include WrestleMania falling earlier, fitting into the first quarter this year. Operating income was $27.1 million compared to $20.6 million in the prior year. Net income, what they made, their net pay, if you will, $19.5 million compared to $15.1 million last year. Those are the top line results, Meathead, for WWE and their business. Again, as I said, WrestleMania having a huge part of that, and obviously $5.9 million alone was the revenue generated from WrestleMania within the quarter. WWE showing results and showing better business year over year, while many say the product is suffering. And as we talked about last week, the ratings are down, but WWE continues to make money. Now, when you take out WrestleMania, it was still a very successful business quarter for WWE, and they certainly aren't going downhill, as they did have an increase over the prior year. 74 live events, including 8 international events during the quarter, compared to 71 events and 8 international events last year. North American average attendance was 7,200 in the current quarter, as opposed to 6,900 same time period last year, an increase of 4%. Now, again, that includes 75,000 fans for WrestleMania 24. Without that, it was a slight decline. However, with that, it is a 4% increase. Average ticket price was $45.39 compared to $36.30, so they indeed raised prices as well for their events, thus making up the difference and excluding, as I said earlier, the impact of WrestleMania. It was North American average attendance was 6,300, ticket price $38.08, so about 600 fewer attendees per event. Pay-per-view revenues, $41.2 million as opposed to $15.8 million in the prior quarter. There you see the impact of WrestleMania 24. Obviously, a lot of things coming out of that number for the number of people who purchased WrestleMania 24, and we'll get into that in just a moment. But, Meathead, your thoughts on the business of WWE, an increase, even given that the ratings are lower, fewer people are attending live events overall.
Makes you wonder what happened when more people were attending events. How were they not able to make money? It makes you wonder. Have they finally gotten to the point where their business model is where they want it to be? And it makes you wonder, do they actually care about the on-air product and the rating if the business is working?
Well, they've done several things, such as streamline their operations. They have also increased revenues from WWE.com, WWE Films, WWE Home Video, all of the things in that area they have increased their revenues on. So they're making money in a lot of different areas and new areas as opposed to where they had in the past. So they've taken advantage of new business opportunities. The XFL was not one. WBF was not one.
I don't even have the strength right now. I really don't.
I'm simply saying that they didn't make any money off of those ventures.
Right.
But these are new ventures now that they're simply expanding their own product where they are making money and proving successful for WWE. It's also proving successful is the decrease in pay-per-view events. They plan to do 14 events this year, and as we look at the numbers comparing year to year, this year's Royal Rumble did about 533,000 buys compared to last year's 491,000 buys. WWE No Way Out, substantial increase.
What's an amazing point to that is that Royal Rumble was the first high-definition pay-per-view as well.
Very true. Very
true. There was more people that bought that because, hey, you know what, it's an HD event, it's going to look glorious in high definition. I mean, there was word that Mike Adamle might be on there. I don't think that increased buys, but...
WWE No Way Out did over 110,000 more buys than prior year with 329,000 buys.
I can explain that one in 2 words. Well, actually, it starts off with 2007 PWR Wrestler of the Year as voted on by you. That's where the buys came from.
A staple of that event and the buys, of course, with the 2 gimmicks on the pay-per-views as well, being the the Elimination Chambers
from Raw
match
and SmackDown.
And then here's the big number: WrestleMania 24, doing last year just about 1.9 million buys. Last year doing about 1.1 million buys, so substantially lower this year than, don't believe that last year number is accurate, by the way. I think it was 1.2 million last year and 1.1 million this year. However, lower, so Donald Trump paying off better than Floyd Mayweather in this year's WrestleMania, and WWE finally admitting that they did not pay Floyd Mayweather $20 million.
Of course
as
not.
we said on this very show, as everyone believed the hype. But they did not elaborate any further on what they did pay Floyd Mayweather. So obviously, WrestleMania is still garnering a large number of buys. Same percentage of people who bought it overseas bought it last year as this year. They want to increase that overseas price as well to start generating more revenue from that. WrestleMania this year, speaking of generating more revenue, $55 as opposed to $50 last year, which I'm not sure if that's accurate, but that's at least what the press release indicates for the price of WrestleMania. So WrestleMania certainly didn't disappoint. As a lot of people are saying out there. Of course, WWE always wants.
It depends on what definition of disappoint you want to use. Did it disappoint in that their production value was kind of shoddy because things happened during the show that shouldn't have happened? People got burned.
Lights went out on the Spider. Several things happened, but another thing about doing that WrestleMania in the Citrus Bowl, which they admit and which was clear, it's certainly much more money spent to put on the event. As far as I can tell, they spent $15 to $20 million to put the event on and market the event, which is substantial for a one-time gig. However, they still made $6 million on it at least. WrestleMania 24 specifically, the buy rate alone generating $23.8 million in revenue, while in WrestleMania 23 in 2007 generated $24.6 million in revenue, which was recorded during the second quarter of 2007. Again, cost this year went up due to the show being outside, increase in talent fees, and an increase in advertising. So overall, again, WWE, strong brand, making money, even given the substantial decline in ratings, which we talked about last week over January and February.
Again, it's not the ratings so much that I think WWE is worried about. I think it's the fact that WWE is focused on just making dollars. And ratings are just a tiny piece of making dollars. Ratings are, just a small, there's advertising, there's, TV rights, all that other stuff, but really their business model isn't even geared towards the ratings anymore. So Ratings can continue to fall. You can continue to say, they don't care about their fans, their product, they're gearing towards kids. They're making money, and that's really all the WWE is worried about.
Exactly, and their television ratings certainly not the focal point because they don't generate most of the ad revenues anymore. The networks do, and remember, SmackDown moves to My Network TV come September of this year. However, they do take some charges or at least lose some of the licensing fees for the networks if their ratings do go down. They get $700,000 a week to do Raw for the USA Network. That's what they're paid to do the show. So you look at, do they want to go out and grab that $700,000 in ad fees, or do they want USA Network to either take the hit or pocket the rest and guarantee themselves $700,000 a week? I mean, that's $45 million a year or so that WWE can bank on just for doing Raw each and every week. And you see...
Just for allowing their content to be aired on the USA Network.
And you see more and more emphasis being placed on the special editions, the 3-hour shows, if you will, which is easy for WWE to do just to put more product out there, but also increases the amount of advertising that USA Network can do for the programming.
Because that first hour ends up being fluffer anyway.
Exactly.
I knew a fluffer once.
That was the WWE business results for quarter one. TNA, just in case you're wondering, does not release specifically their business
because
results
they do not have to.
They are not a publicly traded company. And the only reason WWE does, by the way, is because they do have to appease their shareholders and release their earnings information. Speaking of TNA, let's talk about Sacrifice, the pay-per-view meathead this Sunday night from Orlando, Florida in the Impact Zone. Not a very many matches.
The pay-per-view is in the Impact Zone.
The pay-per-view is in the Impact Zone.
What does that mean for Damian Nelson?
It used to mean that I would not be watching it.
What does it mean this week?
I'm intrigued by the Terror Dome. I'm intrigued, albeit less so. I'm intrigued by the main event. I will be ordering Sacrifice on pay-per-view.
Where do you live again?
I live in Wisconsin.
Because I probably will not be ordering it this time.
Well, if you go to the forum, apparently you can find places to get it illegally, which we do not endorse or support, by the way.
No, come on. If I'm going to watch it, I'm watching it in high definition. Or at Damian's house.
pay-per-view?
Or at Damian's house. Or at Damian's house in black and white definition.
There's no need to get a new TV. The black and white one still works perfectly fine. Why upgrade? Ford Fairlane was a great car, too.
Ford Fairlane was a great movie.
At the time of this taping, we do not know who is in the Terror Dome. However, we do know that the names that are allegedly to be announced on this week's TNA Impact are not major talents. As you saw when Jim Cornette announced more of the participants of the Deuces Wild Tag Team Tournament, you saw Sting, you saw Booker T, you saw one of my new favorites.
Awesome Kong?
No. James Storm.
Saw about your damn luck.
It's got a great angle. But you saw all those big names being put into that match, and including Matt Morgan and Kip James and BG James. Doesn't leave much for the Deuces Wild Tag Team Tournament, but they're going to make some stars in that match. But let's go back to the Terror Dome. We don't know what this match is really. I mean, it's been announced.
Is this a Public Enemy pay-per-view?
I told you to turn down that Public Enema.
I'm sorry, go ahead. The mind's just starting to, the rat is starting to move the wheels here.
Here are the rules of the match, all right, as we know them right now.
And you need to follow them because TNA does.
I did have to read. They are the king of the gimmick matches, for sure.
Apparently.
The ring will be surrounded by a steel cage with a tiny opening at the top that a wrestler must escape through to win the match. So the only way to win Meathead is to escape through this small opening at the top of the cage to win the Terror Dome. The Terror Dome, which is said to be a takeoff of some of the match styles that have been seen in other countries. TNA wanting to create a more unique match for their company, such as the Ultimate X match, so that they have another branded match, if you will. You look at WWE, they've got Hell in a Cell, they've got the Elimination Chamber, and TNA just simply trying to follow along those lines with the Terror Dome. Meathead, your initial thoughts on this match? Again, without knowing the participants, it's difficult to speculate as to what we're going to see happen, but the gimmick, if you will, that we do know.
Does it have to be so close to the all-cage pay-per-view?
Well, that's a great question. Which was last month? Every match was in a cage, 6 sides of steel.
Because TNA, as Damian just pointed out, the king of the gimmick matches, TNA, man, let's just have some wrestling matches. I think we're getting an overload. Heavy overload.
And just about every match on this card, at least announced so far, has some kind of gimmick in it. And the next one being the TNA Knockout Makeover Battle Royal. You saw Kurt Angle has some very pointed things to say about the TNA Knockouts on a recent episode of Impact. Well, it now boils down to a Battle Royal where Meathead, one of the knockouts, will get her head shaved bald.
Now you ask yourself, well, if you're going to get your head shaved bald if you lose, why would you even want to be in the main event then? Why would you be in it? It's the ultimate sacrifice. Do you go for the gold or do you get your head shaved?
Well, and the unique part about this, too, is at the end of the match, the final two participants, which is similar to what we saw at Lockdown, the final two participants, a ladder comes into the ring. You got to climb the ladder, get the briefcase to win the match. And then, a female
How many different people have won a
ladder
briefcase now?
Briefcases are hot in professional wrestling. Well, Petey Williams won one. Scott Steiner won another. CM Punk, the Money in the Bank.
Okay, the tag team belt from BG James gave it to whatever, or Kip James gave it to BG, whatever. Enough with the briefcases now.
You talk about the ultimate sacrifice. Well, the winner does get a chance at the title, Awesome Kong's title. Awesome Kong, otherwise detained, not in this match. However, we will tell you who is. Gail Kim, ODB, Salinas, Roxy Laveau, becoming more and more a fan of her with each passing week.
Me too.
Tracy Brooks, Miss Jacqueline, Raka Khan, Angelina Love, Velvet Sky, and Christy Hemme. I gotta say, she is
a firecracker.
Just a goofball.
A firecracker, but I love her. I love her. She's dyeing her hair a little too red for me. It's a little creepy.
I thought you liked the redheads.
I do love the redheads.
Like Norman Smiley loves the white women.
Billy, come here.
Let's move along and talk about the Deuces Wild Tag Team Tournament for the vacant TNA Tag Team Championships. I'm going to take a breath before we start talking about this match because the rules of the tournament, 8 teams will compete, okay? 4 of the teams are established tag teams, all right? The other 4 teams will consist of 8 singles wrestlers and will be paired at random the night of the event. Now, who's in the tournament? Let's talk about the established tag teams. Team 3D, Christian Cage and Rhino. Latin American Exchange, LAX, now with Hector Guerrero, by the way. AJ Styles and Super Eric, while Tomko is off nursing an injury.
And let me stop right there. How established are AJ Styles and Super Eric?
Well, it's been a week or two. Been about a minute.
How established are Christian Cage and Rhino?
Well, remember, that's a relationship that goes way back.
It's a relationship, I get it. But if they're supposed to be established teams, let's put some established teams.
Well, they're more established than the mangled mess of combinations that will come from the following 8 competitors.
Which
Sting, are? Booker T, Mr. Robert Roode, inching up there again on the Damian Nelson list of superstars. James Storm, Matt Morgan.
And Matt Morgan.
Kip James, BB James.
And BG James.
And I was just so excited to get to the wild card, Meathead. The China, if you will, in this match. Awesome Kong. That was unexpected. And watching Impact last week and Jim Cornette announcing the final participant. Oh, by the way, he forgot one. Notice how 4 faces, 3 heels. Now they forgot one. And then out comes Awesome Kong. We haven't seen anything like this, really, since Jacqueline beat up Disco Inferno and since China became the Intercontinental Champion.
She was co-Intercontinental Champion with Chris Jericho.
It was one of the best times in Jeff Jarrett's career, in my opinion. You, a woman, is going to talk to me, a man like that? That's great. And then it's for the TNA World Championship. This one could be good, but
it could be really funky.
Here's the problem.
Can I come over to the house and watch this again?
Here's the
problem. I don't know if I could pay for that.
Without being at the pre-tape due to Frank calling off, who is the missing link in this match, if you will?
I don't know.
Who's going to louse it all up, potentially?
Super Eric.
He's not in the match. We've moved on to the main event.
Oh, where are we again?
It's a 3-way dance. It's Samoa Joe, it's Kurt Angle, and Scott Steiner. Scott Steiner cashing in his chance for the championship. Really?
And AJ Styles.
Really?
I'm sorry. Again, the gerbil. The gerbil.
That could be interesting. Samoa Joe's going to walk out with the championship. You know, leading into this match, Scott Steiner earned the title shot versus a series of events starting in December. let him to carry around that briefcase. Little Petey Pump, who was injured, got a broken orbital bone, and big props go out to Petey, who is still fulfilling, at this point in time anyways, his commitments on independent events and with TNA as the X Division champion as he takes 6 weeks to nurse that injury, which is a devastating injury to say the least. But it is a three-way dance for the championship. Not sure, but Kurt Angle seems to be turning into a little bit of a face.
I don't know about that. Not so much.
Well, we have seen all these people, Kurt Angle and Samoa Joe specifically, involved in the main event in at least the last 3 or 4 TNA pay-per-views. This was supposed to be Scott Steiner versus Samoa Joe, the champion, but it was changed by Jim Cornette due to interference.
Did you just
by
say
Kurt
doo-doo?
Angle? Due to interference by
I heard
Kurt
doo-doo.
Angle. TNA Sacrifice this Sunday on pay-per-view, ladies and gentlemen. Guess what? We'll be coming to you live right after the show. PWR Interactive available at pwrshow.com. Get the wrap-up, get the updates, and call in and tell us what you thought of the show. As a matter of fact, speaking of shows, it's time to shake things up again.
He's just like saying that.
We're going to take a break and come back here on the Pro Wrestling Report. Won't take over as a better roster because it's time to shake things up again.
Really?
Oh yeah, we're gonna do an old-fashioned draft. We're gonna take every
For those of
wrestling
you-
superstar,
for those
put them in
of
a
you-
hat, and build our own wrestling organizations. More details to come in subsequent weeks here on PWR.
For those of
News,
you that don't know-
PWR 2-Minute Drill,
for those of you
and
that
PWR
don't know-
Interactive Live. It's time to shake things up again.
For those of you that don't know, currently the score is Meat at 1, Damien
In
0.
your demented mind, Hillary Clinton. Ladies and gentlemen. I don't know what that means exactly, but we'll
We'll
go
go
along
with
with
it.
it.
Apparently,
Welcome back,
when
ladies and
Meathead's on
gentlemen.
the show, it's not professional anymore. I'm just-
Has not been for at least 10 years. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the world's most watched professional wrestling news program, the Pro Wrestling Report. Damian Nelson sitting alongside the man they call Meathead, Frank Cosentino, called away late, traveling down to Orlando, Florida.
Look, I slept
is
right
gonna,
there.
And this is typical Frank. He's going to be back on later this week and will not be there for the Sacrifice pay-per-view. They got to take him back to school. But let's talk about what people did watch this week on TV, Meathead.
Let's talk about the ratings and February ratings for Raw, or the Raw data, if you will.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is actually just from this past week.
Oh, yeah, see, whoever wrote the script, Damien, put February ratings. Raw this past week was 3.2.
You damn well
It was
know
down
it's
a
the
point-
interns, not
yeah.
me.
It was down a 0.1. The Raw ratings were drops in TV ratings were basically attributed to the natural cycle of business, and added that USA Network is very happy currently with the WWE ratings.
This was Linda McMahon's comments on the earnings call.
SmackDown was a 2.2, which is also down 0.2. I attribute that to the fact that the product is,
Patooey.
yeah, ECW a 1.08. Now, again, we don't know what the actual rating was for the Adam Lee Taz walk-off.
We talked about that last evening on PWR 2-Minute Drill.
Yeah. But apparently,
It was the 100th episode of ECW, and I
anybody
guess they
notice?
celebrated with a 1.08.
yeah, did anybody notice? Impact 1.0, exactly the same.
4 weeks running, I believe, they've had that same rating. Some say some are concerned in TNA
Why?
because there's no growth. Exactly. I'd rather be stagnant than declining.
Why?
As opposed to growing.
Why even bother being worried about it? Keep doing what you're doing, TNA. I know you're watching. Keep doing what you're doing. Except honestly, cut back on the gimmicks. Too much.
Speaking of gimmicks, Meathead, it's time to shake things up again. As announced last week on PWR Interactive Live, Monday night, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at pwrshow.com, we're going to do another draft right here on the Pro Wrestling Report, and that'll be coming up starting next week, actually. We've got some details on that draft coming at
have
you
that.
right now. First off, we're going to be this year defining the rules and the guidelines
Oh, hey!
that can be modified during the draft by the moderator before the draft actually starts. Firstly, every company, major wrestling company, will be represented. Talent from WWE, all 3 brands, talent from TNA, and talent from Ring of Honor will be available.
Wait. Is there Ring of Honor in here?
There is. Ring of Honor in there will be available in this draft. Now, I will represent a company, and Meathead will represent a company. And all those talents are up for grabs, but folks, we are going to do it just slightly differently this year. In addition to me winning, we are going to do it over
because it's different than last year, which you didn't win.
Over the course of 5 rounds. There will be 5 rounds of draft picks.
Yeah, I know I'm a prick. I get it.
Frank Cosentino will moderate. However, in the first draft, it will be current champions. So all the champions from WWE, TNA, and Ring of Honor will be available in the round 1. In round 2, it will be the major contenders for those championships in their respective organizations. In round 3, remaining talent in all 3 brands. Round 4 will be the females, which includes the Divas and the Knockouts from WWE and TNA. And in round 4...
What about Ring of Honor? Where's the Divas from Ring of Honor? Where's the girls from Ring of Honor?
Round 5 will be the announcers.
Okay, so announcers. I can't pick any random chick from Ring of Honor? Because I don't know any. I'm sorry.
You have the preliminary draft list, which is available at pwrshow.com
it's
as well.
Up on the interweb now?
And if you would like modifications to be made, I think you can submit those to Hillary Clinton, because she'll be free shortly.
Yeah, about that. Where's Mickie James? She's not on the list.
What company are you going to represent? This is exciting. We're going to do a draft. We're going to shake it all up.
I want to draft roast beef, and the man doesn't even have it on the list.
Mickie James is a current champion. If you look at round 1.
And not listed in that list. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
You are such a dolt. Right between Y2J and Kane. Yes, indeed. She is pick number
8.
Hello? Hello? All right,
where's my Fire Me, I'm Already Fired t-shirt?
Right. So that will be the draft. We'll start it next week. It'll go over the course of several weeks. I believe you're going to be representing
a certain company. I told you, it's a surprise. Because it's time for me to shake things up again. It's time to bring back WCW.
Wait, no. Do it right. You're supposed to... Come on. No. Don't. Remember when Vince McMahon brought back the NWO?
Oh.
And he was talking in the mirror on SmackDown?
I'm bringing back WCW.
That's the draft, ladies and gentlemen. More information available at the draft page at pwrshow.com, pwrshow.com. And now with that being said and completely derailing the show, let's go to upcoming events.
And now I got to find that portion of the script.
Page 4.
Page 4. Hey, upcoming events, WWE. On May 9th. On May 9th, Raw is in Saginaw, Michigan. May 10th, Raw is in Kalamazoo, Michigan. May 10th, there's a SmackDown and ECW show in Huntington, West Virginia. Apparently the brands are separate.
Well, they're going to be voting next week.
May 11th, Raw will be in East Lansing, Michigan. So the Raw brand moving around Michigan, if you will. TNA is going to be live in Bear, Vermont.
Finally, we've been talking about this for weeks.
May 9th in Derby, Vermont, and May 10th a live event in Plattsburgh, New York. Don't forget, June 8th, Slammiversary is going to be in Memphis, Tennessee. Memphis, Tennessee, John, get my girls ready. Tickets on sale now. Memphis, Tennessee. May 9th, there will be a little Ring of Honor in Manassas, Manassas, Virginia, all you people from Manassas, and Ring of Honor, New York, May 10th, Hammerstein Ballroom.
Apparently that's a pay-per-view taping as well. They're going to debut a refreshed look for that show, Will Ring of Honor, and we'll look forward to seeing that coming up this weekend, this Saturday actually, in New York, because it's a great town, according to Frank Sinatra.
Start spreading the news.
Wednesdays and Sundays throughout the month, I believe, on A&E are Sinatra Music and Movie Days.
That's too bad.
Let's go on to our weekly top 3, ladies and gentlemen. Each week we pick the top talent in singles wrestling, female wrestling, and tag team wrestling. And we'll start with Meathead this week, as I started last week.
Because now I know the gimmick, and now I can do this. First off, my top single wrestler will go out to Little Petey Pump. Even though he hurt his eye bone, he's still one of my favorites. Number 1, Little Petey Pump. Number 2, my favorite tag team. Once again, going out to a WWE tag team last week.
Tag team once again. That's good. That was subtle enough to almost...
Last week I went out to a team of Murdoch and Cade. This week I'm going out to... I know a couple guys in the back that'd be loving to meet you. Yo, 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 yo. Papa 40 and check your rollies. It's Crime Time. Crime Time is my tag team and my female wrestler. A surprise, a shock, a new knockout on TNA. Cheerleader Michelle. Yum yum dim sum. Jeez,
and ladies
filthy.
and gentlemen, the
definitive top 5 brought to you every week. Oh wait, it's top 3.
dominating the singles professional wrestling world, in my opinion, this week is none other than William Regal. As we talked about yesterday on PWR 2-Minute Drill, he really brought something special and unique to Raw, and I'm loving the new character, which is not so new, but the character that's being allowed to be utilized by William Regal in WWE. A couple of repeats from last week. Top tag team spot is LAX. Again, the domination of Hernandez is simply amazing.
I love when the big man flies.
And also, the top female spot this week, ladies and gentlemen, goes to ODB, Jess Dalton. Folks, we want your viewer mail. You can email us to the email address that is comments@pwrshow.com. Again, that's comments@pwrshow.com. Send us your email. We'll read it on the air. We'll be very interested to hear your thoughts on TNA Sacrifice, the pay-per-view this Sunday, which can be seen in the Impact Zone in Orlando, Florida, or via your local pay-per-view outlets. Again, that email address is comments@pwrshow.com. Draft starts next week. And the draft, we're going to shake things up again.
I registered.
Thanks for tuning in, ladies and gentlemen, to this week's edition of PWR News. For Frank Cosentino and the man
Frank,
they
we
call
need you to come back here, dude.
We'll see you next
Seriously.
week. Or actually, no, we'll see you Sunday night. PWR Interactive Live right after Lockdown. Right after Sacrifice on pay-per-view. See you soon, folks.